HTML supports more than text, links, and lists in a document. An HTML document may contain images, sounds, animations, and many other kinds of information. Here, we look at how to include images, pictures in various formats on your web pages. The IMG element. Insert an image. Images come from many sources and in a variety of formats. HTML uses the IMG element to indicate where an image should be rendered and placed on the page. The syntax is just a start tag with attributes. An end tag is forbidden. An image element has no content. The attributes that you can specify are source, that is, the name of the image file to display, and this is required. Alt is a textual alternative in case the image is not displayable. Maybe the image couldn't be found, or it's not a known format, or the user has turned off image display, it's a non-visual user agent, all kinds of reasons. Use map is the name of an image map to use if you're using a client-side map, which we'll talk about later in this video. Width of the image in pixels and height of the image in pixels. Now there's other attributes, but not of use or interest here. The global attributes are available, of course, and also the usual event handlers are available. The absence of alt is considered an error. However, a value of an empty string, alt equals quote quote, counts. Nonetheless, it is good to have a non-empty value in most instances. Use map is only needed in certain circumstances discussed later. If neither width nor height are specified, the actual dimensions of the picture are used. This may cause troubles with layout depending on the viewport dimensions, and we discuss techniques for resizing images in a subsequent video. If only one of width or height are specified, that value is used in calculating or estimating the other value, and the user agent, the browser, should attempt a best fit strategy. There are several approaches to including image elements. One, a standalone image, maybe for decoration on the page, such as a logo. Two, a standalone image preceded or followed by maybe a P element as a caption. Three, image with text flowing on the left or right sides, and we'll show examples of all these. So first, a logo. For my web pages for Still Plugging Away, I include a logo. Here's a simplified version. The body element and the image source is monitor-trans.png, the alt is monitor, and I want it to be 80 pixels wide. And then the header, Still Plugging Away, and then the rest of the content. And this displays this way. Well, that's not quite what I'm after. I'd like the header to be next to the logo. So a small change. In the image, I add a style attribute and float left, clear both. Everything else is the same, and what that says is the image file can float on the left and clear anybody else to come, and then it displays the way I'm after. Secondly, standalone with a paragraph element for a label, and that can be either at the top or the bottom. So here I have a paragraph, map of the world with continents shown in different colors, and then the image, and the source is world_continents.jpg, alt equals continents, and it displays this way. And if you swap the image and P elements, and then I got rid of the colon, here's the image with the caption below it. Note that I set up image files to have a border around them. You should know how to do that by now. Finally, the image with text flowing along the left or right sides. This is dependent on your setting the image element along with float and margin style properties. Here's an example. Image source equals worldcontinents.jpg, alt equals, there's an empty string. And here's the key, style, float right, margin left 5 pixels, margin right 5 pixels. Then a paragraph. This is a map of the world showing the continents in different colors. We have set up this map of the continents to jump to a larger image of just that continent, and we'll be exploring how to do this using the useMap attribute along with map and area elements as we implement client-side maps. In this instance, we use float right. Also, it turns out it's nice to have a little margin between the text and the image. So that's the HTML. And I set this, and I also set the version for float left so you can see the differences. So here's both images. And then it looks more interesting if you shrink the page, the viewport, a reduced viewport, because now you can see the text flowing around the image on the right and the left. And of course, you can get this effect if your page layout uses multiple columns, so it's a narrower column for the text to flow into. And now for something completely different, client-side maps. A very cool feature of image elements is that they can be logically broken up into areas that collectively form a map. In this way, each area of the map can be tied to a link to another resource, usually a page, but it could be an image or other file. When the user clicks on an area in your image, the corresponding link is followed. Here's an example. So here's an image, a map of the world with the color-coded continents. And it's been mapped so that each continent is an area that's mapped to a different page. For example, we go over here and click on it, and we go to an enlargement with just that continent in it. And over here, we go to South America, for example, and you can right-click and open in a different tab. Notice that when your cursor passes over each area, it changes from an arrow to a pointing hand. That's a clue for you. So here's the pieces to make it happen. First, in an image element, include the useMap attribute to identify which map element to use. You specify a hashtag, a #, followed by the value of the name attribute in the map element. For example, img useMap equals #level2. Create a map element whose content is one or more area elements, and create your area elements. Each area element identifies first an area on the image, and it uses shape and chords attributes, and then identifies the link to follow if the area is clicked, using the href attribute. Now for the details. The map element. Its role is to bound a set of areas. The syntax is a start tag, map, and a single attribute, name equals, and a name that you make up. Give a name to this map. Then your content, and then the end tag. The start and end tags are required, and the content will be one or more area elements. The only useful attribute is name. It's a name used to identify this particular map, and it's required. Events are not generally useful for maps. Now, the area element, its role is to specify an area on an image. The syntax is a start tag, area, with several attributes. An end tag is forbidden. An area element has no content. And the useful attributes are shape, chords, and href. Shape is one of rect or circ or poly for rectangle, circle, polygon, respectively. The chords attribute is a number set defining the coordinates for the shape. And href is the link address for the hyperlink, a URL. So these are the essential attributes. Events are not used for areas. The tricky part, as you might imagine, is getting the chords value right. The fundamental idea is that all coordinate lists are comma-separated lists of points relative to the upper left corner of the image. All coordinate values are in pixels, and each point is represented by a pair of numbers, the x-coordinate followed by the y-coordinate. That is, how far right along the horizontal line and how far down along the vertical line. Suppose you have an image on your screen. The axes are like this, which is not traditional, so it requires some attention. For a rectangle, you specify the coordinates of the upper left and lower right corners. For a circle, you specify the coordinates of the center, followed by the length of the radius. And for a polygon, you specify the coordinates for all points as steps along a line, and the first and last point should be the same. For example, suppose we have an image that is 500 pixels wide and 400 pixels high. Then here's a diagram showing the coordinates of a number of points. For rectangular shapes, you specify the coordinates of the upper left corner followed by the coordinates of the lower right corner. So for this figure, we have these coordinate values. Area 1, upper left corner is 0, 0, and lower right corner is 250, 200. Area 2 is 250, 0 for the upper left corner, and 500, 200 for the lower right corner. Area 3, upper left corner is 0, 200, lower right corner is 250, 400, and area 4 has its upper left corner at 250, 200, and lower right corner as 500, 400. So, an image map areas set might look like this. Image source equals house.jpg, alt equals cannot display image, use map equals hashtag layout. And then here's our map element, name equals layout. Get it? And we have 4 area elements, one for each of the rectangles we talked about above. And you'll see the area, shape equals rect in all cases, and then the chords, the values we put earlier, and then for each one, an href. So when this area is clicked, you'll go to a page called entranceway.html, or livingroom.html, or kitchen.html, or diningroom.html, and so on. For circular shapes, the chords attribute contains the coordinates of the center followed by the length of the radius. Now suppose we have an image that has several circular areas of interest, sort of like this. Then you might construct a client-side map like this. Image source equals region.jpg, alt equals cannot display region, use map equals hashtag r-map. And then our map element, name equals r-map, and then 3 areas. Shape equals circ, chords equal 280, 280, 250. So that's the center and the radius. href equals greenspace.html. And then the second area chords are 800, 225, 300, and its href is shops.html. And the third area chords are 1050, 400, 200. href is powerplant.html. It's undefined what clicking in part of an area that's outside of the image itself does. See the middle circle above. Nesting 2 circular areas can create an active ring. The trick is to not have an href for the inner circle so it can't be selected. For a polygon area, consider our map of the world. Suppose we want to make it clickable by defining areas on it. If the user clicks on an area, he or she is linked to a map of the related continent. Perhaps from there, go to countries, cities, and so on. So we start with our map, and we need to find the points to define these areas. One hard way is to use trial and error. However, on a Windows system, you can load the image into the Paint accessory program. As you move the cursor over the image, the Paint program will give you the coordinates, so just jot them down. We're going to demonstrate getting the coordinates for an irregularly shaped image so that we can use it in an area element. Here's the image I want, and I right-click and open it with Paint. Now, it's kind of small, so I go to the View menu and zoom in a couple times. And now, I can move my cursor over the image, and you'll notice in the lower left corner, it has the coordinates of each point as I move the cursor. So I get that 520, and then up here 1912, and then over here 55.7 in the far right, 84.7, and coming down here I jot down 68.18, maybe 60.28, and then 44.50, and 39.56, and 17.36, and 17.19, and then back to our original spot. It doesn't have to be precise or detailed, just enough of a shape that it will define the area when someone clicks in the ballpark, and it will get your job done. Here's one possible way to code such a client-side map. Start with a paragraph that will be a label for it. Click on the map to get more detail. And then here's our image, and the source is worldcontinents.jpg. Alt is can't display the world, and use map is #world. Then our map element, and its name is world, and then there's an area for each of the continents. The shape is poly, and the href is a page with a picture of the continent only. The chords are values that we got using the technique just demonstrated with paint, and then the end map. Note that there may be no spaces nor line breaks between the values for chords, so it has to be one continuous line. You may have maps with various shapes. They don't all have to be rectangles or all circles or all polygons. You can mix and match on a particular image as it best suits your needs. And a map may be used by more than one image. Note that neither map nor area elements are actually visible. Also, the word map can be misleading. You can use client-side maps that are descriptive of processes, and the links can describe the next level of detail, including manufacturing, sales, distribution, and so forth. Or for training, starting with some general topics and working to more detailed instructions. To describe corporate or organizational structures. To describe product or ensemble details for items on a catalog page. To navigate any geographic or logical structure that lends itself to this kind of presentation. Or to navigate a website. Use images to look like tabs or blocks across the top or along the left-hand side. Map this as areas. Or to organize genealogical or historical information. In this session, we explored the concepts, elements, and attributes for displaying images and for using these images as client-side maps. Remember, sometimes you just want to display an image. Coming up, our next video session is optional. It discusses how to get images on the web, off your phone, and so on. And we demonstrate some free image processing software, IrfanView, that can help you resize your images to fit better on your web pages. See you there.